Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Hello, Professor Groipen. Hello. We can hear you. We can hear you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Hello, Professor Groipen. Hello. We can hear you. We can hear you.
We're just testing the projector. Just a second. Ah, não. Sim. 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 Obrigada. So now you're ready. Thank you for waiting. Stefano, good morning. Are you going to say something or can I begin?
Good morning to everyone. Yes, I will make a brief introduction for today's lecture. I'm very pleased and glad to welcome everyone to this a seminar lecture about labor law and technology in a Euro-Brazilian perspective for the Jean Monnet module, co-founded and financed by the European Union. So today we are pleased to have Professor Groipen. She's a PhD candidate at Universidade Federal de Minas Gerais. And today she will make a lecture about microwork, artificial intelligence, and sustainability. So, Professor Groipen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Stefano. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm very proud to be here. We're going to talk about today, our topic is microwork, gender, and sustainability. I was meant to talk about microwork and AI and sustainability. We are still going to talk a lot about AI, but I had to put gender on it because the more I research, the more I learn all the details about the gender relations and how it's interconnect with technology. So, as Stefan said, I'm Marina. Nice to meet you all. I'm a master in work law here in UFMG, and I'm now researching and studying for my PhD. So this is the main difference you're going to see between me and the other professors that already lectured here, already taught here, because I am a student, most of all. So I have much more questions than answers. I am researching, I'm discovering, and I'm very excited to share with you a little bit of my research. So my objectives today are to present to you, just a second, because my screen is not working here. So my objectives are to explain microtasking, microwork, and how it developed in connection with AI, and also to show that AI is not harmless and has environmental and labor repercussions. Because we have this illusion that technology is something free of everything, something that happens in the air, something that gets developed inside our computers and that has no repercussions. But it's not. It's not. And I know that you are learning about technology in this program for a lot of time. So you're probably familiar with that concept that is not free, that is not harmless, that is not something that happens in the air. It happens in the material world and has human repercussions. So if I achieve those goals today, those objectives, I'll be very satisfied, very pleased with the lecture. I'm going to begin with my references instead of putting them at the end. I think that maybe this will help you understand where I'm coming from. And I'm going to quote those references a lot during this presentation. So that's why I wanted to introduce you to those professors. So beginning with Kate Crawford, she's a research professor at the University of Southern California. She's a senior principal researcher at Microsoft Research New York. And she wrote this book. I don't know if you can see from here, but it's the Atlas of AI. And it's a very good book, and I recommend to you all. She talks about AI and how it developed, how it began, and its repercussions in the earth, so in the environment, in work, in data. She talks a lot about data classifying and how it's work, about face recognition and all the emotions that AI can process and the ones that it cannot process, and the power repercussions of it all, because technology is power. So following, we have Antonio Casilli, that is a professor of sociology at Telecom Paris and an associate researcher at the School for Advanced Studies in the Social Sciences. Is the one in black. It's right beneath Kate. That is the ginger one. So he is a amazing reference for microwork, for new technology, labor relations. And he wrote a great book. It was an essay, and he converted it into a book that was called Waiting for Robots, that he talks about how we are always waiting for the next technology advance to solve the problems that this technology advance has brought to us, and how we are always waiting for the next innovation to solve all the problems. That's one of the topics, because the text is very, very long and complex, but it's nice to read. So I recommend to you. And we have Paola Tubaru, that is the other woman with short hair. She's a research professor at the National Center for Scientific Research in France. And we have Mateus Viana Braz, that is the one in blue. He's a Brazilian professor. He's a social psychologist and an adjunct professor at the Department of Psychology at the State University of Maringá. And Antonio and Professor Paola, they made a wonderful research, empirical one, about the microworkers here in Brazil. And most of the data that you're going to see me presenting is from that paper that they wrote. That is amazing. Also, Professor Antonio and Professor Paola, they had a good study, very good study on gender and microtasking. That is also very good. I can send it all to you at the end if you want. And another major reference for me is ILO, and because it has a relatory on the digital labor platforms and the future of work. towards decent work in the online world. It's from 2018 and has lots of data, lots of statistic on this matter, on platform workers, on digital workers. So it's a very nice one. So I wanted you to see that the most of things that I'm going to talk about is from those references, those professors, and those papers that they wrote in ILO. So this is a map of what I'm going to talk about today. The introduction is demystifying artificial intelligence. Then we're falling to from industrial automation to AI, the historical continuities. We're going to talk about what is microtasking and why is it central to AI. We are going to then approach microtasking and labor law. This is the boring part. I'm going to ask for your patience because it's lots of laws and directives that we're going to analyze. Then we're following to AI and environmental sustainability, microtasking and gender, and the closings, we're going to talk about the challenges and the questions for the future. So we're going to talk about a lot of things, and I wanted you to know that you can interrupt it at any time for questions or something you want to add or something you didn't understand, because I want you to participate on this. It's a long walk we're going to have here, but I talk very fast, so I think we're going to make it on time. And also, if I'm talking too fast, you can interrupt me and say that. So the first topic, demystifying artificial intelligence. So the dominant idea is that AI is an autonomous technology. It's something that the programmers did, and now it thinks for itself, it happens for itself. You just put a question in there and it's going to answer you. It's something totally autonomous. But it is not. It's neither intelligent and nor artificial. So we have to have in mind that this name, artificial intelligence, was branded in the 50s like a goal for what the researchers and the scientists there were trying to achieve. They wanted a computer, a software, a program that could think by itself, that you could develop something autonomous, really autonomous. And this name is great marketing, so it's stuck. So we're saying AI until today, when usually the scientists that are behind, they prefer the term deep learning machines, or even deep learning, because they are trying to teach the machines with some inputs and with some previous programming, and it's giving them results after this thinking that is not the really human thinking. I think Professor Maria Brochado is the expert on this, because she talks about philosophy, she talks about this technology philosophy according to law. So she's going to talk about this to you with so much property than me. So I wanted to discuss with you, is it autonomous? If it's not, who builds it? Who owns it? The scientists, who is behind it? Who are the programmers? What are they programming? What are their objectives? And at the end of the day, who controls it after all? Because we are in the capitalism system. So if we have those big corporations, big technology corporations, and they are controlling the AI, we know that their goal, after all, is the profit. So how can they achieve that profit through AI? These are the questions that we are making right now. We are wondering. And I really have to talk to you about the black boxes. They are the incognitas. They are the non-solutioned questions that even the programmers can't answer. So Oh, I wanted to talk about also what is the difference between the material and the immaterials, because we think about AI as something immaterial, about all the programming actually that happens inside the computers, or something that we don't see. But doesn't it exist in the real world, in the material world? Aren't we here wasting our time, maybe, talking about it? Are we wasting our material time? So I have this thing in my arm because I type too much and I use my phone too much. So I had tendinitis. I don't know how to say it in English, but I have a problem in my arm. It's a material repercussion of technology, maybe? I don't know. What's the difference and what's the limit between it? In the case of the generative AI, who chooses the best answers? How do we know it? So this is a concept from Kate Crawford, and she says that AI is a social technical system depending on infrastructure, human labor, and natural resources. And she is also the one that says that artificial intelligence is not artificial and not intelligent. So it's not not my concept, it's hers. So black boxes, what are they? How we know that we put an input in the machines, we give them a command, and we know that they give us an answer. That's the output. But actually, in most of the systems, we don't know how the system achieved that answer. So we know the inputs, we know the outputs, but we don't know how the system got to the conclusions. This is called the black box, the AI black box, because the combination of parameters that it takes to give us the answer, it's unknown. Again, it's not me saying, it's them, the people that really study AI technically, the programmers, the scientists. They say there is a limit for us to understand what the machine is doing. And in generative AI, this is even more complicated, because when you ask something for ChatGPT, it doesn't only get your inputs, it gets also all the online information. I think it has access until 2025 or 4. I'm not sure right now, but it has a lot of sources. And even if you ask the machine, how did you get to this conclusion? He can even, I'm personalizing it. So it can try to explain to you, but it's a false translation of what it really did. And what's the problem about this complex machine learning, where the internal decision making is hidden, is opaque, is too intricate for humans to maybe even understand? What is the big deal? We are going to question, is going to answer, going to solve our problems, and that's it. Well, no, I hope it was like this, but it has consequences. It has biases. It can lead to lack of transparency. It can lead even to lack of responsibility. Because if we don't know how the system got to the conclusions, then it's not my fault. Then it's not the company's fault. I'm sorry, it was the machine. I don't know how it made this. I don't know how it got to this conclusion. It was really the machine, not me. So can you understand that it leads to a total lack of responsibility for what the machine is doing? Like it was autonomous, but it's not. So in generative AI, like ChatGPT and others, do our inputs are the only ones, or the big corporations, they might attend to their own interests or other interests that we don't understand? So the intermediate resonance steps of how AI weights the factor, they remain unknown. So it's difficult for us to trust, to debug, or to ensure that it's unbiased. And we are relying lots of our decisions on this system, increasingly. Even labor, the work environment decisions, maybe even layoffs, where we are relying on these non-trustworthy systems like they were the most intelligent thing ever. I'm going to remind you again that we are in the capitalism model. So everything or almost everything exists to make profit to the corporations, and AI is not free of this. How can we know how we are going to be influenced if not even the programmers who made the system are aware? This is a problem that is being very discussed, and some systems, some new systems, I'm trying to solve this with more transparency. So I hope we demystified artificial intelligence, and now we're going to our second topic, that is from industrial automation to AI historical continuities. So my aim here is to show that digitalization does not break with the logic of capital. It merely updates it. I'm sure you know about Taylorism and Fordism and those systems in the Industrial Revolution and soon after. So I'm not going to really explain this to you because I know that you are really aware of that. But the main things of those systems, each one on their way, is that they are based on fragmenting work into tiny little parts, alienating the worker as much as possible. So if you had a table that an artisan could make in a year, he could do that table all carved in wood, very beautiful, and it would last for 200 years. It was going to be a very expensive table because craftsmanship was for a year, 2 years crafting this table. And he was the only one who knew how to make this. He could have an office where he would teach others, and those would help him to achieve those techniques. And what the Industrial Revolution achieved was to get a table, the process of making it, of manufacturing it, and breaking it into tiny, tiny, tiny little parts. So you can have 100 workers doing the same work as one artisan. And they would do it for a lot less money, and they would do it really fast. And they don't even know what they're doing. Each one of them can't make a whole table. They are only aware of their tiny part of this process. So this is the alienation of the worker. And after the Industrial Revolution, the worker no longer is going to understand what they're doing. It becomes a repetitive task that anyone can perform. And with the addiction of the machines, they could do it even faster and even with less cost, which is going to increase the profit. And the machine is going to begin to dictate the rhythm of work. Because if you have a line of production and the product is bypassing you really fast, you have to adapt. You, the worker, you have to adapt to that machine in that pace. And not the machine is not going to slow it down for you. So it's always, since the beginning, the humans adapting to the machines and not the opposite. The machines were never meant to help you to make a better work. It was always meant for you to operate the machine in a way that you could make the most of it. The time in those systems is strictly controlled and measured. Every movement that you make is going to be, I don't know the word for it, I think it's clock watch, when you have a watch, a hand watch that you do, and then it begins to measure the time. So the time is really, really measured. They say that Taylor himself, he used to go to the factories and measure the time that the workers were doing each task. So the time is previously defined, and the behavior of the worker has to follow a standard, and they must completely comply with them. The machines will define the working time. The worker became, in this moment, technically subordinated to the employer. So the worker no longer knows how to make anything other than pushing a button, or maybe cutting something, or making some repetitive movement. You can see that very clearly on that Charles Chaplin picture, that movie that everyone knows. And the machine is going to dictate the work. That's why Marx, he said that the worker was a conscious appendage of the machine. And why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because it resembles microtasking a lot. It really has something to do with what we are doing today, even with the technology. The system is still the same. It works the same way. So I'm going to be deeper on this later, but I wanted to show you that platform capitalism is a historical continuity. We have things that changed, like space. We are not on factories anymore, not most of us, but the kind of work we do don't always rely on a factory, on an industry. We have diffuse power. There's not a manager anymore that is going to personalize the employer. We don't know. We don't actually know who the employer is. And we have the isolation, because if we are working from home, then we don't know our colleagues. Maybe you can even have online forums, or can have WhatsApp or other means of communication, but you actually don't see what the other person is going through, and they don't see you. So it leads to the employee's isolation. And we see things that really remain the same, or almost the same, like the long work hours. We have people that work for 12, 14 hours to have a minimum wage. We have the body and the time control. Everything we do online is measured and transformed into data. So how many clicks do we do? How many typing? How fast do we do it? How slow do we do it? Everything is transformed into data and is being measured, and we're being evaluated by it. And we have the underpayment that is not new and is not going to be. I don't see a real future for it in this system, because if the main goal is to achieve profit, you have to reduce all the costs. So the work payment is a cost. Again, about the space and the diffuse power and isolation, the leisure time and work time, they come intertwined, which is very bad for mental health. And the systems of control, they stop being a person and begin to be an algorithm, depersonalized. And I wanted to talk about something that I didn't brought up before, is that technology by itself is not something evil. I'm not trying to make it something bad or evil. I just think it's a tool. And it's not the cause of labor exploitation. It just means that the one that handles the tool, it can use it either way. It can use it in a good sense to improve life quality, to make things work better, and it can use it in a bad way, just prolonging a strategy of domination. It can be used in different ways. So I don't think the problem is the technology on itself. We got to the third point. And what is microtasking and why is it central to AI? I don't know if you had already had a lesson about it, a lecture about it, about what is microtasking, or if you just already know it. But I'm going to explain to you again, so I ask you to be patient. And if you don't know, so nice to meet you, microtasking. Microtasking is a fragmented, on-demand, underpaid digital task. So these are short, disconnected, and repetitive tasks that are carried out through platforms that connect workers to contractors. One of the main purpose of microtasking is to feed, is train artificial intelligence systems. They are performed remotely through platforms. So it's a kind of platform work. And we have algorithm management. So what do I mean when I say that microtasks are the way that people train AI systems? So AI does not know everything. It may seem like it does, but it doesn't. They don't inherently understand many of the human concepts, like what is beautiful and what is ugly. You think this is going to work or not. You think this person seems trustworthy or not. Is it a nice person? Because some concepts that we have in our minds when we look at something are something that is absolutely human, and there are neuroscientists and psychologists trying to understand how we get to the conclusions that we get. When you look at the person and say, oh, he looks nice, this is something that you don't really know where it came from. And the AI systems, they also don't know it. And opposite to you, human, the AI cannot get to the conclusions so easily. It needs training, and it needs training from humans. These are some examples of microtasking, that is image labeling. So you have lots of images of people or cats or dogs, and you are going to tell the AI, this is beautiful, I think this is nice, I think this is trustworthy, or this is ugly, or this is a person that I wouldn't trust usually. So the image labeling, it's a form of work. And there are platforms online that you can upload those images, and you're going to pay cents of dollars for people to classify them for you, maybe for 200 people or 300 microtaskers to classify those images for you. And I reference it to kind of complex concepts like beautiful and ugly and trustworthy. But usually AI, if it's not trained, can't know what is a cat or a chair or a television. It just isn't born knowing. It has to be fed with data to understand, to learn. So AI still needs humans a lot. Even the latest systems of AI that have access to the internet, they still need humans to lots of tasks. And the platforms that are presenting this work for people they say they are connecting workers with contractors, they present microtasking as a flexible, free activity. But in practice, what we observe is instability, low earnings, lack of free autonomy, because you're always subjected to the algorithm management. That is something we're going to talk about later. I'm going to talk about it deeply. And it really becomes just another form of imposing precarious work conditions. So this is microtasking. If you want to interrupt to say that if you have ever had contact with it, if you know what it is, you don't know, if you ever had performed microtasks, because I know that the scientific community is really one of the main microtask workers source. So be free to do it. Another important concept that we have is crowd work. In the gig economy. Probably you talked about gig economy on Friday with Professor Annalisa, but I wanted to talk about crowd work. And the ILO report from 2018 defines it as the act of taking a job once performed by a designated agent, like an employee, a freelancer, or a separate firm, and outsourcing it to an undefined, generally large group of people. That's why it's a crowd, through the form of an open call, which usually takes place over the internet. This is an relatively old concept. It's from 2009, and it began to be developed in 2006. So it's a job that it's outsourced to be done by a crowd. What you may think that was going to be made by a community of scientists or programmers, maybe 20 employees that are going to make that task during 20 years, maybe 2 years or 5 years, it's going to be done overnight by a large group of micro workers. These workers, they span multiple time zones because they are spread all around the world. So this offers business the possibility of completing projects at any time of day or night. So you can launch and micro task at 9 o'clock and go to sleep, and in the morning it's going to be done. So because someone from around the world made it to you. And you have lots of workers that can accomplish this task really quickly. And these workers, they have no attachments to you, no contracts, no other obligations, no responsibilities for the contractor. They are completely outsourced. The real outsourced ones that we have no relationship with, they work by single tasks. You give them a task, they are going to give them back to you, done. So I'm going to bring some examples for you to understand better. This Lego image is very particularly interesting because it's tiny pieces that's going to form something really, really great. So we have image labeling that I talked to you about. A good example of image labeling, it's the development of the vacuum robot. You know that Roomba, that vacuum robot that goes on the floor? So there is they had to train it. They can read your house and they can understand it. Understand it's a human concept also. But they can memorize it, and they can identify things not they're going to desviar. They're going to move from those things. One of the things that some of the advanced Roomba can move past is cat poo or dog poo. And how does it know what it is, cat poo? Because it had to be fed, it had to be trained with lots of images. So with any kind of configuration, it could identify that is something that he does not want to go through over it. And so there were micro workers that had to upload lots of pictures of their own pets' things for the robot to understand what it is and that he does not has to go through. Another kind of microtasking is content moderation. What is content moderation? It's one of the most unhealthy jobs ever. That is, you look at images and videos posted online and you're going to classify it in you have to classify in over 18, or have to say that there is violence in there. You're going to say that is abuse in there. It's going to say there is children in terrible positions in there. So you have to keep watching those videos and keep seeing those images for you to classify that content in good or bad. And people that work with this, they have a great tendency of having mental issues like diseases, because we don't want to be exposed to that, right? The content moderation exists for that, because the public doesn't want to be exposed to that, to those kinds of images. And so you don't want your worker on a social network or a website to be exposed to that, because he's going to have issues. Very likely is going to have issues. So you outsource it to someone that you don't even know, and you don't have any responsibility for that person. You don't have to care for them if they get sick. Lots of websites and some social networks have those tasks outsourced because of those advantages, that we don't have to deal with the consequences for the ones that are watching those contents. So, terrible. We have audio and video transcription. So some things that you think AI does with really easy, it's not really easy for them. They had to be trained, and they still are going to be trained a lot. You see, I use Google Translator a lot, and it has improved much during those last, I think, decade. It used to have a really lack of understanding of some expressions, or the translation was too literal, and now it's getting a lot better. It's not perfect yet, but it got a lot better during this last decade. Why? Because it was trained. How? By us, by our online content, and people translating spontaneously, and people that are doing this being paid for it. So if you translate something and you feed it to the AI, it's going to learn how you translated it. You have to have lots of people maybe translating the same text, or making the transcription of the same audio and the same video, for the AI to really understand how it's done. Because as we are human, we have differences, and it can lead to minor differences in the translation. So it's going to learn even that. It's going to learn accents and everything. So it's another form of microtasking. And we have click farms and fake engagements. That it's a thing now in the social network era, that, you know, when someone pays a website, say, oh, I'll give you 200 followers. So these are micro workers. These are not people that are made up. They are real people that were paid to use their own account, or maybe to create a fake account to follow you. It's not something that is made totally artificially. It was human made. And you can also pay for clicks. You can pay for people to not only to follow you, but to engage with your content. And obviously the social networks don't like this, because they want the real humans. But it's been done. These are things that are happening. We have also surveys, people that are paid to answer to interviews. We get a formulary with lots of questions, and you're going to click, or you're going to type your answers. And previously, you're going to provide a description of who you are, about your gender, about your social, about your location, about who you are actually, so they can really analyze your data. This happens a lot during elections. People from the US, I've been seeing this a lot during the research. They answer surveys for electoral purposes. Like if you identify yourself as conservative or Democrat, and then the following questions about where do you live, how do you think about this, what do you think about that, and they are going to use that data to really improve their campaigns. So these are some examples. There are others, and what they all have in common, they can be done with just a computer from your home. So they use the platform to locate tasks, the workers, they use the platform to locate your tasks, the ones you want to do. And the platforms usually, they only tell you what is the task and who is the provider with a name that can even not be a real name for the requester. And then how much you're going to be paid for it. And you accept it or not, you move to the next one. And some of them even require some qualification, like, do you speak Italian? Or are you a programmer? Do you have a grad, are you a grad student? Are you a high schooler? Who are you? You know, they have some of them have qualifications, but it's not all of them. Maybe the most well paid. And they are paid by individual tasks, by piece of work they completed. So it's really a task work, a micro task work. For example, like each survey or which response inside the survey or each photo that you tag, that's it. I'm going to give you an example that's going to make even easier for you to understand. I think we all here had contact with reCAPTCHA. That is a program by Google that it's a security program that identifies if we are robots or not. So if we can do things and identify things that robots cannot. Why they can't? They weren't so taught. They are not trained yet in these specific things. So here I have an example of crosswalks. You have to identify all the crosswalks. So sometimes I even make mistakes. I have been making lots of mistakes. So maybe I'm a robot. I don't know. So there's some that you have to identify the bicycles or the hats. I hate the hats one because sometimes I can't see clearly if it's a hat or not. This reCAPTCHA is a program that is offered by Google and that can be contracted by websites for security checks. So the websites, they pay Google to use reCAPTCHA. And the data that we provide to reCAPTCHA, it's used to train the Google AI. So Google earns twice. It earns when the website pays him, contracts him to provide this security check, and it gets free data. It doesn't even have to pay us. So are we all microtaskers and microworkers? This is a great example because almost everyone already had contact with it and can understand this is a microtask. I'm going to talk about now about algorithmic management. In microtasking, workers have almost no information about the requester beyond a name. And they are being measured in every way that they work, how the task completion time, how they done, if it's satisfactory or not. The quality is according to the requester feedback and also the rejected tasks. So if we think about Uber, that is not microtasking, it's platform work. But for you to understand the example, I think Uber and the other transportation platforms, they get this understanding really well done because we have a driver that is going to get a task done in some time, that is going to take us somewhere in some time. His quality is going to be measured by our feedback, he doesn't get a response to that. So if you give them 1 star, it's going to be 1 star. You don't have to, he doesn't have access to those grades. He doesn't know who attributed that to him. It doesn't know why, usually. And he has a measurement of all the races that he did not get, all the clients that he did not, the rejected ones. Like when it comes to him scream like, oh, you have a proposition to pick someone at that spot and take them that spot and get paid $10. And when he clicks no, that is going to feed the system about the rejections of the tasks. And if he gets a certain number that we don't know of rejected tasks, or maybe a certain grade that we don't know, he can be summary laid off from Uber. And he doesn't even know what happened. It's going to show to him that he did not comply with the quality that Uber wants to offer. And that's going to be it. So he had a punishment by an algorithm. There wasn't a human analysis in between. And this happens with microworkers as well. You can be just disconnected from the platform because you didn't attend to quality, and you don't even get to know what happened, actually. You don't know which requester or which requesters did this. So workers, they often do not understand this criteria, which are not transparent. Platforms can suspend accounts without revealing the metrics used and without offering the possibility of defense. The workers in platforms, they create external forums to discuss the good and bad requesters and how you can earn more money, how you can make more, so you can like cheat the system, some strategies to increase your earnings and everything. But they actually don't really know what's going on. They don't know the rules of the game they are playing. This is something really kind of new, because usually you have a manager, you had a boss, you had someone that you could blame for their decisions. You can say, this person is not treating me right. And you got to talk to his superior, maybe, or not. You can have a file injustice, maybe. And in here is totally depersonalized. You don't know who you're talking to. You don't even know what's the criteria that is being used to judge you. This is algorithm management. We had a famous case here in Brazil last year that lots of workers, bank workers, they work for a big bank here in Brazil, Itaú, they were laid off because of the number of clicks they were clicking in their homes while they are doing homeworking, while they were homeworking. And most of them was really surprised because some of them didn't even know that their amount of clicks were being measured. They were using Itaú computers or Itaú programs, the programs provided by the employer, and they were being measured in clicks. So maybe if you take too long to read a document that is going to have no clicks on it, you just are scrolling a document, maybe you're going to have less clicks than usual, and then you can be laid off by that. It's not transparent, and this is going to be decided by justice, because I think there is a law case about that injustice. So this is kind of what is algorithm management, just a glimpse of it, because there are researchers and professors that talk about this in a deep way, much more incomparably deeper than what I just explained here in a glimpse. So I want to go back to that screen that we talk about historical continuities and talk again about what really changed and what remained the same about on the Industrial Revolution, maybe. So now that you have more information about the digital work and the microtasking, you can see clearly that we have a shift in space. We have diffuse power through the algorithm management, and we have isolation of the worker that doesn't even have who to tell. He doesn't have a colleague to say, oh, I was mistreated. He does not. And the things that remain the same are the long work hours, the body and time control, and the underpayment. We have also the alienation from the whole, because if you are developing a program, a big one, and the scientists, they need a great number of data, they are going to request it to microtask websites, and the people are going to provide the data without even knowing what it's for. They are not programmers, they can't program, but they participated in the making of it in tiny tasks, but they don't know the whole. They could never maybe do the whole thing by themselves. They have control over every movement, and now surveillance also includes not only the measure of time, but also clicks, mouse movements, keystrokes, basically everything that can be captured, even your camera, if you allow it. Again, about crowd work, it's an excerpt from ILO, again, from that relatory that I quoted from in the beginning. Crowd work resembles many long-standing work arrangements, merely with a digital tool serving as an intermediate. So you see, ILO understands that this is a continuity, that the only difference between now and then is the add of technology. The strategies of crowd work that center on breaking down tasks into small units assignable to unskilled workers appears as a throwback to the de-skilled industrial process associated with Taylor, but without the loyalty and job security. They are not employees. At least the people working on Taylor factories, they were employees. They have maybe health insurance. And here you don't have nothing. So maybe it's more precarious. It's a question, because the definition of precarious goes through dignity. And if you have a large number of accidents like you had on those factories, it can lead to precarious labor that maybe you don't have now, that all those accidents. And maybe you're not working 16 hours like in those factories, but 12, but 10. I've been talking to microtaskers and Uber drivers and delivery and they say delivery riders, and they say that they work like 10 to 12 hours a day in a very complicated position, especially the delivery people. Like they are very subject to something bad happen, some accident happening, and they don't have anything. They don't have insurance. They don't have assistance from the platform. So maybe it's more precarious or not. I don't know. We have to study. Then we are going to have a definition by Jeff Bezos when he was presenting the Amazon Mechanical Turk. Mechanical Turk is one of the platforms, one of the most famous ones, but we also have Clickworker, we have Microtaskers, we have Crowdflower. I love this name because it reminds me of cauliflower. But we have lots of different platforms, but one of the main ones and one of the most famous ones is Mechanical Turk, the Amazon Mechanical Turk. And when Jeff Bezos, that is the CEO, was or is the CEO of Amazon, was presenting it, he said that it was a way of making artificial intelligence. So the artificial intelligence is artificial. How did it begin? Amazon needed to complete lots of tasks, but they wanted their AI to achieve those tasks, to complete those tasks. But they invested and they provided lots of employees working on those things to make the AI capable of solving those tasks by their own, and then didn't achieve that result. So they said, oh, let's give it to humans then. If the AI cannot, the humans can. And so they created a platform so that the humans could do what the AI could not. And in that way, they would be training those systems. And the name that they chose is specifically ironic, maybe, because the original Mechanical Turk was a machine created in the 19th century that was meant to play chess on their own, on its own. It was this it was this guy, this robot, this humanoid robot that was dressed like someone from Turkey, and with a table, a chess table, and they say, oh, this is a machine. It can play chess on its own. It can beat anyone because it's a machine. It's very intelligent. And then they challenged kings and emperors. Napoleon played against the Mechanical Turk and lost. But actually, there was someone behind that table playing chess. There was a human. It was never a machine. It was never a robot. It was a human. So do you understand the irony of the name, the Amazon Mechanical Turk? Because you are pretending that a robot, that AI, that a machine is giving you solutions, is solving your problems, but actually it's not a machine. It's a human. It's the microtaskers. So you get to see the deliberate invisibilization of human labor. Users, they only perceive the full automation, yet extensive human work is actually involved. This invisibility prevents public reaction to poor working conditions, low pay, and psychological harm. You don't know what's going on because you think it's the machine. You don't care about the machine. You don't worry about it. You worry about the humans, and you don't know the humans are involved. So that's the irony of the name. They have courage to give this name to the platform. And in here, you can see how it looks like in real life. This is the platform, the Amazon Mechanical Turk. And it describes itself like a marketplace for work where businesses and developers gain access to an on-demand, scalable workforce. So you can see in blue the requester. You see there's a lot of Amazon requests. You can see a brief this description of the task. You can see how much you're going to earn. Like you see, is 1 cent, 1 cent, 5 cents of dollar, 12 cents of dollar, 50 cents. And you can accept it or not. You see, 3 of those tasks, they have lock within it. They have to be, the worker has to be qualified. And they pay almost the same. Like there's one that requires qualification, but he only pays 5 cents. So, and is transcribed of up to 35 seconds of something. So, now I'm going to show you some of the Brazil data, some Brazilian data on microworkers. The source of this data is that relatory, that study of Matheus Viana Braz, Antonio Casilli, and Tobaro. They analyzed data from lots of micro workers here in Brazil, and they found that 1 in every 3 micro workers has no other paid job. This can mean lots of things. They can be unemployed, or maybe they don't want employment situation. Maybe they are a housewife. Maybe they are students that don't really want an employment situation. It doesn't mean they are unemployed. Here in Brazil, we have the concept of unemployed. I don't know if it's the same of the one you use in Europe, in Italy. But if you're not looking for a job, then we do not classify you as unemployed. You are something else. Unemployed here for us are the people that are looking for jobs and they are not getting jobs. So these are the unemployed. So I don't know if this is the concept that they use here. They also learned that 70% are between 18 and 35 years old. So it's a young workforce. They are young. Brazil microworkers, they earn 31.5 less than the general population. They are not comparing with the minimum wage here. It's with the general population. 31.9 work 7 days a week in platforms. So you see, they are regulars. They are regulars. They work a lot. They work every day. 31% of them, almost 32. So it's a high number. And they are usually highly educated individuals. So are people with masters and with PhDs, maybe PhD students like me. People that are educated. And now we are moving to microtasking and labor law. So here I'm going to talk a little about two main legislations that appear in the last few years. And I'm not a specialist in European law. And one of them is that 2831 directive of 2024. So if you want to correct me on something, please be more than welcome. I'm going to appreciate it. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is why is it important to involve labor law? We have, as we said, legal invisibility. We have people that are being classified as independent contractors when we are not really sure if they are independent contractors. We have algorithm management, which we have seen that is not a very good situation. And we have absence of social protection, unlikely what you would have if you had a regular job situation, employee situation. So this is why it's important, because labor law, after all, is to achieve dignity, the minimal dignity that someone that works deserves. So if we are not attending to labor laws, if we are trying to escape from them, this is not a good thing. And this is a quote from the ILO report again, that says that the argument that these platforms are new, something not quite the same as traditional work, has been one way that online labor platforms have attempted to evade existing labor regulation. Try to avoid labor regulation is bad on its own. If you're trying to avoid the law, this is not good. And it's not me that is saying this, it's ILO. If you're trying to avoid something, it's because you maybe would fit in that concept and you are trying to escape from it. So it's not a good thing. So the first one of two that I wanted to talk to you about is the California Assembly Bill number 5. There's a great documentary on YouTube about platform workers and the approval of this bill in California. They had really mobilized, they have really made strikes and tried to call attention to get this bill passed on. And but it's not as good as they once thought it would be, because they are still not employees. They are not considered employees. So what does it say? It made a shift on the probation onus of who is employee and who is not. It defines that a person providing labor or services for remuneration shall be considered an employee. So you go from there. You are an employee, unless the hiring entity demonstrates that all the following conditions are satisfied. So you see, you are an employee unless proved otherwise. And the ones that have to prove otherwise is the one that hired you. And they establish three criteria. They call it the ABC test, to see if someone is really an independent contractor or if they are an employee. The first criteria is the person is free from the control and direction of the hired entity. So you can't be controlled. It's a very clear example of this kind of control is when you hire someone to fix a window in your house. You have no idea how a window is fixed, or maybe you have a small idea of how your window is fixed and how you want it to be fixed. But when the person gets there and talks to you and he has the technical control of it, he says, no, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I have to buy a certain kind of material or something like this. And he solves the problem on its own. You have no control over it. He said, oh, I can go there on Thursday, but not today, just Thursday. So he has the control of his agenda, a great control, because he can even cancel on you. He can even say, no, I'm not going. And he also establishes the price. He says, I'm going to charge you $50 for this fixing. So you see, he has a total control of his activity. The maximum thing you're going to say to him is, I want it, now that it's broken, I want it bigger, or I wanted to remove that window, or I want it a different color. But you don't know how it's done. So he has total control of his activity. And this does not happen with most of the digital labor. Uber driver is being controlled. He does not decide the price of that activity. He does not decide where he's going to pick you up and where he's going to drop you off. He does not decide, well, almost anything. Even the path, the way that he's going to follow is decided by the algorithm, by Waze. So in microtasking, it's like that too. You get a task and you do it just the way they told you to. If you don't, you're going to have bad evaluations. You're going to be maybe disconnected from the platform. So the second criteria is the person performs work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity business. So let's think about Amazon. That is a technology company. It's not just the delivery company of things that we buy. No, they are a technology company. And if you are providing data to their technology systems, you are totally inside their activity. You are providing things for their activity. And the third criteria is the person is customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, or business of some nature that is as that involved in the work performed. That is terrible for the programmers. Because if they are microtasking on the side and they are providing programming services, they are not employees, because these criteria, they have to be all attended. So they are not employees in that sense. So if a Uber driver, going back to the platform workers, that are not microtaskers, but they are platform workers, if he is a driver on the side, if he works with Uber like 8 hours a day and 2 hours a day, he's a particular driver, then he's not an Uber employee. These are the criteria that the AB5 decided to attend. Another legislation about this was the European Union Directive 2018/8 8/31 of 2024. And this was a real good one, a real good one. And it has to be, all the member states, they shall comply by December this year. So we're going to see, maybe you're going to tell me about it, what's going on there. And if the platforms are compliant to it, if the member states are making the platforms comply to it or not. What did the directive says? Lots of things, but I'm going to make it short here. They has something that is very similar to the AB5 California, the California legislation. That is the shift of the proof that the contractual relationship between a digital labor platform and a person performing platform work through that platform shall be legally presumed to be an employment relationship. So you begin with that status where facts indicating direction and control are found. Where the digital platform seeks to rebut the legal presumption, it shall be for the digital labor platform to prove that is not an employment relationship as defined. So again, we have a shift. And I have to say that this is already the rule in Brazil since the 1947 or 43. That is when our Law Act was published. If you are attending someone or you're doing a service for anyone, you are presumed to be an employee since like the 40s here. And then you have our own criteria. There are 5 criteria that we have to, if the hiring person has to prove that you are not attending that criteria. So I'm not saying we are advanced, because we are not. But it makes me want to compare things. Like, it wasn't like this before. It's beginning to be like this now. So this is one of the most important points of this directive. Following, we have a whole chapter of it about algorithm management. And we have an article that says of the limitation of processing personal data by automating monitoring systems. We have an article that says about data protection impact assessment. And we have an article that I'm going to detail with you that's going to talk about transparency with regard to automated monitoring systems and automating decision-making systems. This is particularly important because, as I said previously, maybe you don't know you're being monitored or by which criteria you're being monitored. In this directive, they established that the digital labor platforms, they must inform the workers about the mere use of automated monitoring systems. Like, hey, you're being monitored, and this is what you're being monitored on. And also about the decision-making that is automated. They must provide this information on a written document that may be in electronic form. It's usually going to be in electronic form. And this information should be transparent, intelligible, and easily accessible using clear and plain language. You don't get to say things in a way that people are not going to clearly understand. This information, it must be presented prior and at any time upon request. So what's going to become of that? It's going to become those things you click accept. When you are using a website and it has the terms of use, and you have lots and lots and lots of things written there, and nobody reads that, and you're going to accept. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be that's going to be it. But at least we will have a document to see which criteria is being evaluated. If you have a doubt later, maybe it's going to be used only for people that study this. Oh, sorry, I didn't put on the screen, but this one's gone. As regard to automating monitoring systems, they say lots of things. I'm not going to read this to you, but they have to say that the systems are in use. They have to say that, to make clear that we know the categories of data and the action that is being monitored. And we have to know the aim of the monitoring, why you're monitoring me too. You can lay me off because of that. You can pay me less because of that. What is the purpose of this monitoring? And about the decision-making systems, we have to know that the systems are in use in first place, and we have to know the data and the main parameters that are being processed by these automated systems, and we have to know if it's the personal data or behavior of this person that is performing platform work, how does it influence decisions? So you see, things began to be more clear. The other thing that I wanted to show you is the article that talks about the human oversight of automated monitoring systems and automated decision-making systems, as known as human on the loop. What is the human on the loop? It's not quite ethical to make a machine take all the decisions without the possibility that a human can interfere. Like when you're summarily laid off from Uber and you are being laid off because a machine, an algorithm analyzed all your data and decided, oh, you're not good enough for us. And then you're being laid off like this. But if you put a human on the loop, at least you have someone that you can talk to about, or maybe you can complain about. What does the directive says? That the member states shall ensure that digital labor platforms oversee with the involvement of workers' representatives. This is very important. This is the unions or the workers' representatives that are being participate. They are participating. They are representing the workers here. Regularly and in any event, every 2 years, carry out an evaluation of the impact of individual decisions taken or supported by automating monitoring systems and automated decision-making systems on persons. It's okay if the machines decide about the machine. It's not okay if it decides completely autonomously about human lives. And also says that the person has to have the power to override the automated decision. So it has to really be able to interfere if it sees that is not fair or something is not right, or maybe there's an error. So that was the not so cool part. You were done with it. Congratulations, and thank you for enduring with me. So we are going to talk a little bit about AI and environmental sustainability. You are studying technology, and if you are in the program that talks about gender and sustainability, you have seen this a lot probably. But I have to tell you again that actually technology and AI is not unnatural. It's quite natural. It is located in the real world. It needs natural resources, and it's an extractive industry. We have to break the idea that the digital is clean or by itself, or that is immaterial. It uses lots of natural resources, and they can be minerals, and they can be energy, and then they can be physical infrastructure. We have already seen that there is human labor. We have seen that this is a mechanical Turk, actually. It does not work on its own. There are people that are involved. There are material human labor that involves bodies, that involves energy. And now we are going to see, very briefly, that we also have the environmental possibilities. This part of the presentation is all based on the AI Atlas. And it's going to be really brief. because it's not really the area that I study, but something that I have interested on. So this white thing that is being mined here is lithium. Lithium is a mineral that's quite rare, and it's essential for technology. It's the source of the energy on the batteries. So if we have electric cars and we have notebooks with batteries and, well, everything depends on lithium. And it's something that is not infinite. It's going to stop being mined at some point, and then what are you going to do? I don't know. I think they're working on it. But in the meantime, we are mining, and we are mining a lot to sustain all the things that need batteries too. And this graphic, this is one example of mining, okay, because it needs lots of other minerals, like you know it. I don't have to say, right? And this graphic here shows the energy that the data centers they need, and why does it need it for? So we have 40% of the energy that is being used to keep the servers turned on. We have 43% of the energy for the cooling and power provision system. So we see that the main problem here is the cooling and the power provision. And we have storage drives with 11% and network with 3%. So it's not a very optimized form of data being memorized. Because I have to talk about data centers a little bit, because we think about the cloud and we think about that something that is in space. And this name was actually branded to get us to that impression. That is something immaterial, something that is floating in the air. Our data, our pictures, our videos, and our documents are on the cloud, something immaterial, but they are not. They are in a data center somewhere. And usually those data centers are being placed on the global south. Why? Because they have cheaper land, they have maybe cheaper energy, some renewable sources of energy, and they have, let's say, a disposition to get this kind of investment that we don't have in the developed countries, not so much as the underdeveloped. Well, so the carbon footprint of the world's computing infrastructure has already reached the peak of the aviation. It's written wrong, I'm sorry, but this is the meaning. So when the aviation was on its peak with lots of carbon being displaced in the atmosphere, this is the same carbon footprint of technology right now, and it continues to rise at an accelerated rate. Kate Crawford estimated that 14% of the greenhouse effect gases will come from technology in 2040. That is a lot, because we want no greenhouse effect gases. We don't want any of them. And to have 40% is a lot. And the energy that we take to maintain a data center is huge. So people have to look for a solution. This is a problem. This is an environmental problem. We are going to continue talking about the water. The AI water footprint is rising sharply, with consumption predicted to have more than double by 2050 and over 54 cubic kilometers annually. This is so much water. And those tech giants, they have significantly increased their water needs for cooling data centers due to escalating demand for online service and generative AI products. They have a data, but I'm sorry now that I didn't get it to you, but each input that you put on ChatGPT and the glasses of water that you're using to achieve that output, it's significant. I'm not saying for you not to use, okay, AI or technology in general. I think we have to use it, but we have to use it maybe responsibly, maybe knowing everything that is involved, knowing that it's not a free material without damage thing, not a romantic vision of technology. We can use knowing and taking responsibility for what we are doing, an informed use. So if again about the data, the cooling towers that are used in the data centers, they cause, why did they use water in the data center? It's for cooling. And when the water cools, it evaporates. The heat is transferred from the data center, from the server to the water then evaporates, we generate heat on the outside, and the machines keep cool. And it can cause up to 9 liters of water to evaporate per kilowatt of energy used. It's a lot of water. It's not something that is disposable. And we have to remember that water is not something that we can afford to really lose, because 1.1 billion people worldwide lack access to water. 2.7 billion find water scarce for at least 1 month of the year. And the inadequate sanitation that depends on the water is also a problem for 2.4 billion people. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. And of course, AI and technology, they are helping to improve life quality for many. But I don't think it's proportional. Do you think it's proportional? I want to hear your opinions maybe at the end of it. These people that have no sanitation, they are exposed to diseases like cholera, like typhoid fever, and other waterborne diseases. And we have children dying of diarrhea because of poor sanitation. It's not something that is uncommon, especially in the global south. So that was it. It's not very pleasant, the environmental part, because it's very disturbing. But let's continue to get disturbed with microtasking and gender. Let's talk about gender relationships, gender relations. So this data is from a study conducted, as I said previously, for Professor Tubaro, Casilli, and Viana Braz. 33.5% of Brazilian microtask workers have no other source of income. So they are not being paid for any other work. The average monthly income is $112, which is not much, is below our minimum wage. 3 out of 5 are women in Brazil, which is peculiar because in developing countries, according to ILO, according to a study conducted in 2018, women represent 1 out of 5. So here in Brazil, we have a special situation. We have 3 times more women working on microtasking than the other developing countries. Among the unemployed, 73% are women. So again, we have to analyze that data to understand if they are talking about unemployed because they don't get an employment situation, they don't get a job, a formal one, or because they are not looking for it. But as it is, there are 73% of the unemployed, and this is a lot. Only 27% of the rest are men. So men usually are working on unemployment, they are employed elsewhere and microtasking on the side. And women usually are only microtasking. And 55.2% of Brazilian women microtask workers access platforms Monday to Friday, compared to 55% of men. So they are more regular. So you see, gender is something to be studied here. This shows that the microtasking may deepen structural inequalities. They are a majority of women, they work for longer hours, they depend more on microtask income. And again, I have to remind you that we have, in general, here in Brazil, a high presence of young and highly educated individuals. So that's the case of those women too. About those differences of the job performance of women and men microtaskers, Paola Tubaro, Marion Coville, Clement Leludec, and Antonio Casilli, they saw that was a wage gap between what women microtaskers earn and men. And they had an excellent paper trying to solve two main questions about this wage gap, trying to understand this wage gap. The first question was, what is the place of microtasking in a population of working mothers who already do 2 to 3 shifts a day? So what they are trying to understand here is they are earning less because they work less hours. So proportionally, they get the same payment, but as they work for less hours, they have less money. So this is the question here. They have less time to do the work, the micro work, so they earn less. Or is a common wage gap where they earn less because they are women for itself, né? As we see very commonly. Adam Spressel, that is another great study professor on this matter, he said in 2017 that women have disadvantage through their domestic responsibility, which affect how they carry out their online work and thus what they can earn. So he believed that the problem was structural because women have more domestic responsibility and then they have less time and then they earn less. And the second question that they wanted to answer here was, microtasks can constitute a bridge toward better career prospects in the digital economy. So the fact that you are microtasking, can it make you rise up in your career? Can it actually help those women and mothers and to have better jobs in the future? What they wanted here is to see if this can be a mean to professional empowerment of women. These are legitimate questions. It had to be asked. And how did they wanted to answer those questions? They had a method. They posted on our microtask website, they paid people to answer questionnaires, and there's nothing wrong with that. They had 900 answers. They are being answered by French only because the microtask platform that they posted was based on Paris and has recruited only French residents. So this is a study about France, but it's nice for us to see it's a possibility that all the women have the same situation. 56% of the participants were women, which is a good source of comparison. And they had 127 questions on those questionnaires, and they had interviews, follow-up interviews with 70 of them. So it was a large study. What did they discover? They discovered that microtasking women devote an average of 70 minutes more than men to house chores every day, which is very close to the French general population of 78 minutes. So usually a French woman works in the house in the domestic chores 78 minutes per day more than men, which per se, it's crazy. But if you analyze that data even more, if you break down, you see that the gap is actually with the mothers and not only with your women partner, because among childless men and women, we have a difference of only 12 minutes. So we see that they work a little bit more on the domestic chores. But when a child is involved, they work 104 minutes more a day. So the problem in here is not that you're a woman, but that you are a mother. And that's why they earn less. They earn less because they work less, because they can't work because they are doing domestic chores. They are attending their children. And the difference gets bigger when you add more children. And that's the answer to the first question that they asked. And for the second, they discovered, or they consolidated the finding that microworkers are overall very well educated. The participants are twice as likely to have a bachelor's degree than general French population, with no noticeable difference between men and women, so they are equally qualified. The difference is the field where they specialize. Where they found out that women tend to specialize in subjects such as health and management, which they have 46% against 30% of men, and very few have a background in engineering, 7% of women against 34% of men. And they concluded that this leads to a difference in networking. You know about the isolation that we mentioned previously? It's kind of that. The women are more isolated than the men. So this is not a mean to a professional empowerment, and this is not a bridge to a better employment situation. They remain the same because they are less able to rely on social contacts for information. They lack network ties with digital and computing professionals. So it's not their field. They cannot have a better employment situation because they are working in something that is not their field. They are not connected to it. And so they don't have social contacts for information, for support, for training, and they have fewer means to transform their platform experience into asset to boost their prospects in the tech world. So interesting, right? I'm sorry. And with that, I get to the conclusion. I get to the closing, that is challenges and questions for the future. So the first thing I wanted to make very clear here is that AI does not eliminate work. It's a mechanical Turk. Again, the work is still there, but it's maybe hidden. It's placed elsewhere. It's maybe more precarious. So it does not eliminate work. It fragments, hides, and deprives it of protection. I want to leave you with the knowledge that sustainability, diversity, and labor are interconnected, because the world we live in is a world of connections. Everything is interconnected. So AI has an impact on the material world, just like technology. And again, I will say it again, that technology is not bad for itself. It's a tool that can be used to all sorts of ends. So I have the hope that we're going to use it well. We have to remind again of the Industrial Revolution and why we are not working in the same conditions, with the same accidents and the same super long hours and child labor and wage gaps and everything. Because we stood up when we said that this was not acceptable. People broke machines. people made strikes. They organized themselves in unions to have more voice. And those voices we are going to have to use them again to say what's acceptable and what is not acceptable, and to understand that technology and AI and any innovation is not something that can be done independently just because this technology is something good. No, not by itself. We have to have all this knowledge, and this is just a little bit of things that I was able to, maybe I hope I was successful to transmit it to you, that we have to have those concerns so we can think and tell people and the big techs and the billionaires, what is acceptable and what is not. And we are not obliged to accept everything just because it's an innovation. Maybe it's for the bad, you know? So this is what I wanted to reflect on. And the final question I have is, can we truly speak of innovation if it depends on invisible and precarious labor? Can we? I don't know. As I say, I have more questions than answers. And that's it. I hope it's been interesting for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marina, really for this super interesting and illuminating lecture. I really, if I was there, I will make an applause to this lecture because I truly loved how it was objective, deep, and innovating from a particular standpoint. For example, how you made this intersection about microwork, natural resources, water, gender, and sustainability was really interesting, especially the part about water and the use of natural resources, that I think that many times when we are talking about technology and labor is often underestimated. And also this provocation that about this question, like, is this truly innovation and in the world? Of course, as a PhD candidate as well myself, we have more doubts and concerns rather than solutions and answers. But this is the reason why we created this discipline, this course with the funds of the European Union. So really, truly interesting. Also the part with gender, because unfortunately sometimes technology is exasperating and exaggerating this discrimination also in gender when it comes to work, especially as we saw microwork, cloud work. So thank you very much, Marina, really. Now I will like to ask to the class if we have some questions, some curiosities about the lecture. If you all have some suggestions.
If you have any questions, I'm going to ask you please to type, because the audio here in this room is not very clear. So I think there's something happening in the outside. There has lots of noise, and I'm not listening really well right now. So if you could type your questions, I would very much appreciate it.
Okay, I think we can wait like few minutes to see if some questions will arise.
Of course.
And eventually we can end this online session and we will continue in presence afterwards. So I'm checking here the chat. Let's check. Okay, thank you so much for all the students, the researchers, all the people that were attending this lecture, this course. We are very happy to have you always with this Jean Monnet module. And now we will continue in presence with the PhD candidate Marina. So thank you so much. And Marina, you can end the live on YouTube. Thank you so much, Marina.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.